On December 18, 1916, a war of unimaginable suffering finally came to an end. The Battle of Verdun, the longest, bloodiest, and most destructive battle of World War I, was over. But the question that haunted Europe still lingered. What had it all been for? Verdun was never supposed to be the site of a battle that would change the course of history. In early 1916, Germany's Chief of General Staff, Erich von Falkenhayn, devised a plan to bleed France dry to force the French into a battle they could not win. The goal was simple: wear them down, crush their spirit, and destroy their army. The French chose Verdun to make their stand. It was symbolic. Verdun represented the heart of France, a city that had seen Roman and French empires rise and fall. The French could not allow it to fall into enemy hands, but they did not know the true cost. What followed was 300 days of hell. The Germans poured artillery fire into Verdun, dropping more shells than had ever been seen before. The air was thick with the sound of explosions. The ground trembled as if the earth itself was in agony. Soldiers on both sides were trapped in a constant maelstrom of destruction, fighting not for territory, but simply for survival. Men were buried alive. The land was poisoned by gas, and the mud, endless, suffocating mud, made every step an agonizing struggle. For the French, the cost was almost unbearable. Soldiers went without food, without rest, without hope. A constant stream of reinforcements arrived, only to be thrown into the same meat grinder of death. General Philippe Pétain, the French commander, promised, "They shall not pass," but he could not stop the endless waves of artillery fire. By the time the battle reached its bloody climax in December, over 700,000 men had been killed, wounded, or captured. The city was destroyed. The land was no longer recognizable. And yet, after all the suffering, Verdun did not fall. But the victory came at a terrible cost. The French had held their ground, but their army was broken, their spirits shattered. The battle achieved nothing militarily. The Germans, too, lost nearly 500,000 men in this fruitless struggle. The political fallout was equally devastating. France had lost so much, but the toll on Germany's military capability was also immense. The front lines had barely moved, and so Verdun became a symbol of the futility of industrial war. Why does the Battle of Verdun still matter to us today? Because it represents the horrors of modern warfare, the scale of suffering that industrialized conflict can inflict on human beings. It teaches us the value of diplomacy, the cost of unchecked aggression, and the devastating impact of national pride. Verdun was not just a battle. It was a symbol of what happens when countries lose sight of the humanity behind the war machine. The soldiers at Verdun were not fighting for glory. They were fighting for survival. And yet, their deaths achieved nothing but more death. So, when we look at Verdun, we remember the cost of war, and we ask ourselves, how can we avoid repeating the mistakes of the past? How can we prevent future generations from suffering the way these men did? History is not old. History is living inside us. One day, one event, one lesson. Mr. Feedy,